Welcome to the only show that cuts into the big issues behind the best books on politics and world affairs. I'm Derek Conway, and this week we'll be looking at Western Sahara conflict by Ali Bahaidjoub. Now, this book is not light reading, but it is a clearly signposted, hugely well-researched analysis of one of the world's longest-running conflicts deep in Africa's Western Sahara. An environmentally inhospitable tract of land about the size of the United Kingdom, claimed by Morocco, challenged by the Republic of Algeria, and fought over by the revolutionary movement, the Polisario. To review Dr. Ali Bahaidjoub's recently published book, I'm joined in the Press TV studios by two excellent guests. Stefan Samanovic is a journalist and chair of the Free Western Sahara Network, and Roger van Zwanenburg is commissioning editor and chair of Pluto Books. Welcome to you both. Well, you've had an opportunity to plough through an admittedly rather heavy-going work, but there's a lot of detail in there. What did you make of it? First, Roger, you tell me what you thought of the book.
Well, it's a detailed examination of one of the longest-running conflicts that I know about, and we hear so very little about it in the media that it renewed for me an experience I had over 30 years ago when I first published a book on the Polisario, and haven't done so since then. So it was a very interesting read for me.
So it's been a long time, this issue, for your knowledge. And
that's right.
Stephen, you've been a campaigner on this for a long time. What did you make of the book? You've probably read lots of works about the issue. What did you make of Ali's contribution to the debate?
Well, I mean, I did find it very fascinating.
You know him as an
I have. I've appeared
yeah.
on Press TV with him before.
Okay.
We kind of locked horns over
yeah.
the issues because we don't really approach the subject from the same angle. I mean,
of course, yeah.
He is a Moroccan, and he for 18 years was the head of the London Maghreb Press Service in London, which is the Moroccan official press agency. So he comes from a certain angle, and it's a very divisive, very hotly disputed issue, as this book kind of shows. So it was fascinating, but it was very instructive to see exactly how the Moroccans view the issue, and there's talk about how passionately they feel about it, and how they view things in terms of international legality, and in terms of how they see this issue being resolved, which are very important, because it's not just one of the longest running, but as you say, one of the most forgotten conflicts in the world.
So and your network is what, based in London, or where?
It is based in London. I'm based in London. The key people are here, but it's a global network. The idea is to bring people, campaigners from around the world who've been often campaigning for many years on this subject together.
And is it linked with the Polisario officially, or just
not
similar
officially?
aims?
No, we work closely with them.
Yeah.
I know the representatives. I've been out to the refugee camps as a journalist for The Guardian this year, and last year as a journalist for The Independent.
This is to Tindouf, the camps at Tindouf.
To the refugee
It'll be interesting to hear about those. I mean, I don't know whether you come to the bottom of this, Roger, because obviously one of the issues in the book is about who legally owns the territory, because obviously there's a long-running dispute. The International Court of Justice obviously had a look at it, and it didn't seem to really come up with a strong conclusion either way. I mean, once you ploughed through the book and your background knowledge of the issue, do you have a view in your own mind about who should actually be controlling this piece of land?
I have long been part of such issues, and my position is that as an Englishman I should not take a position.
Those colonial powers that have caused most of the trouble here.
Very easy for us in this country to take positions on disputes of land in other people's country. And I'm not a lawyer, and I, for one, would not state who is right and who is wrong, or even whether the dispute over the legality of the land is one that is absolutely central to the problem. It always seems to me that if people want to resolve a problem, they can. It's often a question of power, of raw power, but legality is secondary to the actual issues themselves.
Well, we found that in Iraq as well, I suppose. And what's your take on this, Stefan?
I mean, I'd agree with that. This often comes down not just to power, but also natural resources, which Western Sahara does have vast quantities of, and unfortunately isn't really referred to very much in this book, but maybe we'll come on to that. But in terms of the international legality, I think that is key to this book and also to the issue. And I think it's important, you say that the International Court of Justice ruling or opinion wasn't clear, and there's a whole thing about how ambiguous it was, but I mean, in terms of what it said, it's found no, I can read their opinion where they say they find there we go. Oh, they did not establish any type of territorial sovereignty between the territory of Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco, and I don't see any ambiguity there. I mean, it's quite interesting what the book talks about is the difference between international legality and Islamic concepts of allegiance and sovereignty, and that's a very interesting area. But in terms of international legality, not just in terms of who has sovereignty, but in terms of the occupation, firstly the division of Western Sahara under the United Nations laws, international laws about non-self-governing territories, which Western Sahara is. It shouldn't have been divided. In terms of the Moroccan occupation, that was a breach of the UN Charter. In terms of the settlement of Moroccans in Western Sahara, that is a breach of Article 49 of the Geneva Convention. In terms of the ongoing human rights abuses within the occupied territories, so-called Western Sahara, occupied by Morocco, you have countless reports by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch documenting those. We have over 500 people who've gone missing over the last 30 years in that territory.
I mean, I hope we'll come to some of the refugee issues. I mean, I think, I mean, obviously, if Ali or the Moroccan ambassador was here, they'd probably take a different line to the one. So I'll probably just have to balance it up a little bit, because I think the international court ruling was that although there was no control over the territory, they accepted that it wasn't an empty space, which was a problem in part of Africa before colonial boundaries were set. But the court did rule that there were existing ties of allegiance between the Sultan, as they described him then, the king as we would now call him, and some of the tribes. So it then came to this Islamic concept of sovereignty, rather than what we as Westerners would think of sovereignty as, my army's here, what are you going to do about it? And I think sometimes it's this concept of the Islamic concept, the bay'ah, the swearing of allegiance to whoever is the local caliph, whatever it might be, is a difficult concept for many Western viewers maybe to have, but obviously not for viewers who understand Islam. And so I think that's where the Court of Justice had a problem, didn't it, really?
I think there are issues, though. I don't think it's as clear-cut as it could have been, and it was only an opinion. But we also must remember that after the long war, 15-year war between the Polisario Front and the Moroccans, which ended in 1991, the Moroccans, part of that ceasefire agreement was to hold a referendum on self-determination, and that was agreed to, and that was like 19 years ago. So I think that's the problem, that this has been blocked, and there have been over 100 resolutions from the United Nations calling for that resolution, calling for that for the referendum. And I think, allow a referendum to happen, and then you can decide where the Sahrawi people, whether they want to be independent, whether they want to be part of Morocco, or whether they want to be self-determining.
Well, we'll come to that. I think what we might do is just take a brief look at an interview clip with Dr. Ali Bahaidjoub, the author. So we'll take a look at what he has to say about his book now.